Welcome to Virtually Amazing Assistants, the podcast for assistants everywhere. If you've not met me before, my name is Shelley Fishel. I'm known as the MS Office Maestro, and I've been training assistants, business owners, organizations for over 25 years on Microsoft Office application. And I still do that. However, I have a passion for assistants. I think you're all amazing. Businesses wouldn't work without you. And so I've created this podcast for assistants everywhere. Over the coming weeks, I'm going to be chatting each week with a different guest expert. We'll find out how they got to where they are, what they're up to now, and how they can help you. Tips and tricks are abundant. We will learn to know. That's me, Shelley Fishel. Enough of this introduction. In a moment, I'll be bringing on my guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Virtually Amazing Assistants, the podcast for assistants everywhere. And if you've been listening for a few weeks now, you'll know that I'm Shelley Fishel, the MS Office Maestro. And today I am delighted to have as my guest the amazing Suzy Sanders. I'm just going to read from my crib sheet. Well, I'm not going to read, I'm going to paraphrase because you don't want to hear me reading. That's too scripted. So Suzy set up Alchemy Virtual Assistants in 2016. And very quickly got very successful from what I understand. And we can chat about that as we go along. She works out of Northamptonshire and she provides remote administration, practical marketing and flexible PA support. But because she's got so successful, people kept coming to her for advice and I want to do that. So she has set up Alchemy Virtual Assistants, and we'll talk about that a bit more later. She's also an author. She's written The Alchemy of Virtual Assistants, which helps VAs build a business through reading the book and the practical advice in that book. So, Suzy, what have I missed? Because I'm sure I've missed something.
Well, Shelley, thank you. It's always so strange hearing someone else share some of the highlights. So thank you for having me here and thank you for that introduction. I think I can't think of anything obvious beyond the fact that a lot of my work is focused on Alchemy Virtual Assistants, but I also have my coaching practice as well. So I do coach and mentor other businesses, not just VAs, but I do also do a bit of work with assistants through my coaching practice as well. So thank you.
That's great. So what came first, the coaching or Alchemy Virtual Assistants, or did it all happen at the same time?
Oh, great question. Alchemy Virtual Assistants came first. I have 2 young children, but actually I consider Alchemy to be my second baby. And my coaching practice was born, if you like, when I was on maternity leave with my second daughter. So having always spent a lot of time with coaches in various different capacities, it was something that I wanted to strengthen. So I took my studies when I was on maternity leave alongside Alchemy.
Brilliant.
So yeah, Alchemy came first.
That's fantastic. And you said that you coach and mentor not just VAs, but also lots of other small businesses, small business owners. And what format does that take? I mean, what do you help them with?
Oh, another really great question. And I think one of the things that coaching has taught me that the thing's not the thing. So I could share some common themes that people do seek support with, but it's very often something else lurking around that's really the thing. But predominantly, they're seeking accountability, they're seeking confident thinking space. And sometimes it is just having somebody trusted that you can just verbalize things with and then play around and seek new solutions. Because I think change is the only constant in the life of an assistant and in the life of a business owner as well. So I think anything we can do to support our mental resilience is always helpful.
That's a really good point. And it's something actually that's come up in nearly every episode that I've recorded, in that change is the only constant, whether that's changing circumstances, changes in life, changes in technology. We have this huge AI revolution at the moment. Listeners, in case you're wondering, we're recording this on December the 17th. And I cannot remember at this point in time when it goes out, because I'm very fortunate that lots of people wanted to come and talk to me. And I've got a long list, so it's very exciting. So, Suzy, why did you actually leave corporate and start Alchemy in the first place? What prompted that? Was it children, or was it a wish to do something else? A bit of both?
Oh, well, I think if I'm really honest, I've always had a bit of an entrepreneurial flair in my belly. It's always been there. I was the kid that was always trying to find a way to solve a problem and make some money. But my career before I started the virtual assistant business, I was an executive assistant and I was supporting board level. And it was, I loved my job. I'm one of those assistants that kind of fell into my role and that profession, which I think is quite common, but I absolutely adored the role that I had. But it was when I had my son and I didn't adjust to motherhood very well at all. And I suffered with postnatal depression, postnatal anxiety. And then I found myself maternity leave gone, back in the office. And I was like, I've had a real, what am I doing? What is
Yeah.
going on type moment. And whilst I was on maternity leave, amongst the nappies and the endless feeds and all the other stuff, I had come across this concept then of a virtual assistant. And I can say it now, I was quite naive in my approach, but actually I stand by it. I remember having the thought, well, if I've created a human being, I've birthed a human being, I've survived, I definitely have a stab at business as well. And so I did.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think that's quite often happens for a lot of women in particular, because obviously men don't give birth and have the same kind of They have challenges, but not quite the same kind that we females do. And I think that often happens. And that kind of being in that baby stage, which is absolutely gorgeous, but so exhausting and terrifying as well. I remember coming home from hospital with my daughter, who turns 40 next year. How did that happen? But anyway, I still remember coming home from the hospital with her to our house. We didn't yet have central heating. That came a bit later. And we went into the lounge. It was August, but we had to put the gas fire on because it was chilly. And I put the carry cot with her on the coffee table and sent David out to buy if there was something we needed, and sat there and thought, what do I do now? And phoned a friend and I said, Helen, help. And she came round. But yeah, it is such a big thing. And you're right. If you've done that, you really can. So you'd been an executive assistant, so you knew all about supporting people. How did that translate into the virtual world at the beginning?
Oh, interesting. I think because I was a little bit virtual in my employed role, because when you're supporting a board level exec, they're not always sitting there with you. You don't have
Yeah.
that luxury. So I think I had some tiny degree of managing and working remotely in that sense. So for me, I think it appealed massively, the fact that I could work from home. Not only did I have that personal kind of moment where I felt that a job wasn't going to work for me, I wanted to be able to play to my strengths and I wanted to be able to be there for my son as he grew.
Mm.
And being home based was key to that for me. So the practical stuff, I think for me, the drive to learn was there, and that's what pushed me to translate it across properly.
Yeah, I think that sounds really great. What were some of the challenges you faced in the early days? People always like to hear how we all struggled at the beginning and we got over it.
Okay, so beyond the fact that I wasn't getting much sleep, and my mental health was in tatters, I had very practically no self-belief, self-confidence. There was a lot of challenges in those early days with me. And I think the biggest thing, which I see echoed in so many kind of aspiring and new virtual assistants all the time, is finding clients and actually
Yeah.
making it work. And closely linked to that, there is also this am I good enough type thread of conversation going around in our heads sometimes. And I know that record still plays out for me quite a lot. So I think what wasn't a challenge in those early days, Shelley, honestly.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that little voice, I've been in business for 25-ish years, I think now, it never goes away. And whatever level you get to, it's still sitting there saying, oh, new level. I follow Denise Duffield Thomas, who is a money mindset coach. Anybody that really, you should go and listen to her podcast, Chillpreneur, buy her books. She is phenomenal around the idea of money mindset. And she says, new level, new devil. As soon as you get to the next level of whatever that is, whether that's learning, if I'm presenting something new, that will happen as well. That's really cool. So how did you move from just you to working with other people?
I love your use of the word more. And just thank you for sharing your insights there in that little voice is there for you as well. Because so I think, how did I move more from just me to more people? It happened quite organically initially. My concerns about getting clients and getting paid and getting money were negated quite quickly when I actually put my mind to it and started taking action. And I found quite quickly that I was overwhelmed. And I was really fortunate that I got lots of clients that needed lots of different things. And I very quickly found myself quite overwhelmed and not aligned to what I was setting up the business to do. So, and around that time, we had so many people that were just finding me saying, "How have you done this?" And I want to do this. Can I come and work with you? And I was like, well, I'm just in my pajamas at home and I haven't washed my hair for a few weeks. And it's really not what you'd think. But I started to realize that actually, whilst there was a need for the work that I was able to provide, there was also a need for people to provide that work as well. So it all happened quite organically. It was a lot of hard work and practices to consider, but it did happen quite organic for me. And I'm very grateful for that.
Okay, great. So you moved organically because I'm just going to recap a little bit for our listeners in case the sound went out because it went a bit funny for us. So what Susie was saying was that things happened organically and she got quite overwhelmed with getting a lot of work, which I think is a lovely position to be in, but quite terrifying on one level as well because you want to help. Assistants I've discovered, I found like very much like trainers, just want to help and just want to get it done and take the burden off of whoever that other person might be. So, and then gradually you had people coming to you saying, how do I do this? Or I want to do this, or I want to work with you. So quickly had a team. And obviously that must have brought its own challenges because something I haven't talked about with other people who've had teams, which has only just occurred to me. When you're taking somebody to work with you as an associate or under your banner, presumably there are some safeguarding things for your business that you need to put in place. And talk about that a little bit, because I think our listeners would be interested to know if they're thinking of working with associates, what is it that they need to consider about that?
Yeah, quite right, Shelley. There's so many things to consider there from a compliance confidentiality perspective. I think from my point of view, if there was just one thing, it would be making sure that there is a comprehensive contract and policies in place to protect you, to protect client, to protect them. I think that would be my one thing if I had to pick one.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I remember when I set up my company, my actual company is called Training Surgery Limited, and Tomorrow's VA, MS Office Maestro, they're all brands underneath of that. But I remember when I set it up as a training company, the first thing I did was rock up in a solicitor's office and spend what I felt was a mini fortune on getting all kinds of things written up legally, like a trainer contracts, if I had to work with a trainer, what we should tell the client, booking terms with the client, invoicing, all of that. I think that's a really good point. Episode 4, I think we had Annabelle Kay, where we talked quite extensively about the importance of contracts and what should be in them as well. So that's really good. So I talked to Amanda Johnson about this idea of collaboration, not competition, which you hear an awful lot said around in the VA communities. And I sense that very much lies as one of your core values as well.
I think it's definitely a mantra I align to that served me as an individual very well, but my clients as well. And I think my personal view is one of abundance. There is enough work and opportunity for absolutely everyone. And I would rather be working, and this is something I work on with the people at Alchemy quite a lot. It's all about aligning personality, and it's not this kind of fear, lack, grabbing everything type approach. And that actually is what has given us a lot of strength.
Yeah. I think that's really cool because cool's the wrong word, but that's what I said. But I think that I also agree. I've always felt there's enough training work around for all the trainers that I know that we all do similar things, but none of us are the same. And sometimes one person will be right for one client and somebody else will be right for a different one. And you're right, it all has to line up and work. So what's one of the things I've got on my list, apart from the book, which we haven't talked about yet? So let's talk about the book next, and then we'll move on to the other big thing in the room. How did the book, because books are hard to write. Books are very hard to write.
Yeah, they are. But I think, I know it's a bit cliche, but I think everybody has. And actually, I think marketing and selling and putting out, that's the bit that's arguably harder. It came from, again, a very personal reason. I wanted to reflect on my journey. And first and foremost, it started as a bit of a journal for me. And then it became a little bit of a kind of passion project. And then I thought, oh, I've always wanted to write a book. This is a bucket list and a moment. And actually, I've seen people want to know about what I can do. So it was a sound commercial decision because it gave me
Yes.
more ways to help, more accessible ways to help. So originally, yeah, started as a bit of a self-reflection type journal exercise and then just evolved from there. And I self-published because I honestly didn't think anyone would be interested in publishing me. But I'm really proud that I did get it out there. And I've had some really lovely feedback from people who it has made a difference to. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's all you can ask for is that somebody reads your book, and even if it's only one little thing, it does help with something. So let's talk about the franchise because I'm very intrigued about this idea of a franchise. So are you a franchise owner now, or are you in the process? How has all that kind of happened? And if
Oh,
anybody
well,
wants to come and work with you under your franchise, what do they need to do? Let's put that out there too.
oh, thank you for asking. Well, yeah, it's funny just to jump back to what you were saying about motherhood and how it changes you and the challenges. And actually, through that period that I had that burnout of overwhelm, I confided in my husband a lot about how I was feeling and what was going on, and that I wanted to give up my business. And he was like, okay, I always support you 100%, but I'm going to struggle to watch you walk away from this. Look what's happened. When you have got a young child and you're not sleeping, like what else can we achieve? So I maybe over a glass or two of grape juice flippantly said to him, well, come and help me. And he said yes, because he had realized that he was missing the time with his son. He was away a lot. He was working and he was pretty miserable. So
Right.
that was pivotal for us, bringing Paul into the business. And that's when we started looking at, or he started looking at, how can we get people in a way that is still serving us? And it was his removed perspective, his brilliant commercial mind that went, okay, so we can serve this audience, we can solve this problem, we can play to Suzy's strengths and mine by doing this. And it was then that he started saying to me, I think we should franchise your brand. And my first answer was, swear word, no, if I'm on it. And he kept coming back saying, what is going on? Why are you so against franchising? And I realized that I'd got a lot of misconceptions and gaps in knowledge about what I thought franchising was. So he educated me, we educated ourselves. And yeah, we launched our first kind of pilot franchise, and we've now got 9 franchise partners supporting and working with
Wow.
us across the UK.
That's phenomenal. How long has that taken you to get to 9?
What year is it? What day is it, Shelley? Oh my goodness. So our
It's
first,
2024.
it's beautiful. So our first franchise partner came on board. She actually was our business advisor before she joined the brand. She came on board at the start of 2020. So 4 years.
That's quite incredible. That is absolutely amazing. And I think it's very interesting because I was talking to Lindsay Taylor, who her episode is going out, one of the early episodes, and her husband came into the business as well, or they decided to work together. And because their skill sets were so different, it made a huge difference. And I think that's it. My husband's an accountant. So he can tell me when I've spent too much or oh, you spent this much on new tech. They say, well, yeah, I'm a bit of a gadget freak. I can't help it. That's my treat. So there you go. But I think that's phenomenal. And I think when husbands and wives can work together, there's a bit of a fear around it as well if you're spending all your time together. On the other hand, it's really can be really fulfilling and great. So do you have a goal for how many franchises you want? And are you sticking to certain areas? Is it by area or by type of client? How does your franchise model work?
Oh, well, firstly, just to touch on what you said there with the with the complementing skill sets, I think that's key, regardless of who
Yeah,
it is, whether it's your husband or an associate. That kind of making sure those skill sets are in the right places and this clarity
yeah,
is really key. And if you ask Paul this question, there would be a very different answer. For me, we don't. For me, it's quality and sustainability and alignment over numbers. I would rather
yeah,
we have 9 absolutely aligned, brilliant franchise hubs than 90 that we weren't
yeah.
as committed to and passionate about, should we say. So Paul would give you numbers because that's his thing, but that's my answer.
No, and I think that is your answer. That's true to your values. That's how you roll. And I would have been surprised actually from our conversation if you'd said something else. That's what I expected you to say. And I think that's right. You don't need always to have 100 or 1,000 or a big number of things. It's about making sure that the ones that you do have are working properly, that you can serve them, and then they go out and serve wider, and it grows that way rather than you spreading yourself too thin. Because there is quite a lot of work in supporting a franchise. One of my other guests is going to be Rebecca Newenham, who has also a franchise model. So, and that shows, doesn't it, how that there is room for everybody because we're all different. Yeah.
Absolutely. People buy from people, don't they?
Yeah.
And we all connect with different people in different ways and
Yeah. And if you look at
definitely don't believe in competition.
Yeah. And then also, if you look at the number of businesses or the number of people that might want assistance, the numbers are so huge. I mean, I can't imagine how many small businesses that actually are out there that would benefit from assistance. And then one day they wake up and say, oh, I need an assistant. And then it goes on from there. Susie, this has been the most fascinating chat. I've loved getting to know you. And I think anybody that works with you is really lucky. And it's been great fun. But have you got any tips that you would like to share with our listeners just before we wrap up?
Oh, Shelley, thank you. I think I'd talk to you all day if you let me, but people might not listen.
No, that's what I'm looking at the clock thinking, right, I need to start wrapping up. Otherwise, we just keep going.
Thank you. Oh, there's so much. I think for me personally, and from what I've seen in the people that the amazing assistants and business leaders that I've worked with over the years, I think the first thing that comes to mind is believing and investing in yourself is absolutely key. I think mindset is the most important thing, and taking the time to be and capabilities, like back yourself, I think would be my
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with that. Back yourself, that would be my tip.
Yeah. I think that's a good tip because you have to decide that you're going to do it, figure out what steps you need to take to make it happen, and then just get on with it really and learn what you need to learn along the way. I mean, I come from a training perspective, so I'm definitely a fan of investing in learning. But no, it's just really important because the more you know, the easier things can be. And you can learn from other people's mistakes. It's Suzy, thank you so much for being my guest today on the podcast, Virtually Amazing Assistants, the podcast for assistants everywhere. And I will be with you, listeners, this time next week with another amazing guest or a podcast. Bye for now. Thanks for listening. I'm going to see you next week with the next guest on the Virtually Amazing Assistant podcast. And that's me, Shelley Fishel, the MS Office Maestro, signing off for this